A common trait among us humans is to look at generations born after our own and view them as a bit soft, wet, not fit for purpose. Now, my grandparents' generation, they stood up to, fought and beat the might of the Nazi war machine. My parents' generation, they're baby boomers, so when they were children, rationing was still a thing and TV was just getting going. That's why boomers are all hard as fucking nails. The next category is Generation X, which I'm in because I'm 44 years old. And Generation X does sound cool. Now, we didn't have to fight Hitler, but when we rode our bicycles as children, we didn't wear helmets and knee pads. No, we just fell off and got brain damage. And if you did fall off your bike, you didn't go running to your mother because she'd just give you a clip over for not paying attention to what you were doing. After Generation X came the Millennials, who for years were mocked for being overly sensitive and acting like they were entitled to everything for free. But the thing is, Millennials now, they're aged anywhere from their late 20s up to their early 40s. And what came after them is Generation Z, or Gen Z if he's from the New World and use that strange simplified version of the English language. And if we thought that millennials were soft, my God. And I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, because not all younger people are overly emotional crying snowflakes. Many of them are fine upstanding members of society. But a lot of them aren't. But we have to bear in mind that the world in which Gen Zers are growing up in is very different to the world that I grew up in. Now, my primary school had no heating, outside toilets, and there was none of that cushion flooring on the playground. If you fell over, it was onto concrete and you were bloody well breaking something. Whereas for Generation Z, they've never known a world without mobile phones, the internet and air conditioning, and they're bombarded with participation awards. Whereas when I was a lad, if you wanted to win a trophy, you had to fucking win something. So why is any of this relevant? Well, it's because I read an article at the weekend about Generation Z entering the workplace, a very specific workplace which we'll come to shortly. Now, I've personally witnessed a young man on his first day of work, before his shift even began, asking, where is the HR department? And when he was asked why he wanted to know, he replied, in case I need to report someone for bullying. First fucking day. So the article was about members of Generation Z joining the British police and the concerns of their colleagues. Now, I've got a lot of respect for the old Bill, and becoming a police officer in the UK is a monumental task. There are so many hoops to jump through. But it transpires a few bad apples are making it through. Well, not bad apples. They're apples which have never ripened because they've spent their entire lives being mollycoddled and wrapped in cotton wool. So we're going to look at some of the problems encountered by these overly sensitive woke young coppers. And make no mistake, the police spend most of their time dealing with utter scum, the fucking dregs of society. But the problems we're about to look at don't seem like that big of a deal. First up, a newly qualified officer broke down crying because she was a passenger in a police car, and when the driver put the sirens on, they were too loud and triggered her anxiety. And another officer rang in sick because he was also a passenger in a police car, this time responding to an incident, and the driver went too fast and made him car sick. These are the people protecting us from the psychopaths and the terrorists. Then there was a report of an officer who was so nervous on his first day, he brought his mum with him to the police station. And clinging to the apron strings seems to be a bit of a theme, because another officer's mother made a furious phone call to the police station because her daughter was working overtime and she was there to pick her up, and she was also worried her little princess might get hungry. The mother of another young officer rang in sick for him, explaining he was too upset to go to work because the previous day he'd been in a police van with several other officers and they'd been to a McDonald's drive-through, despite knowing that her son is vegan. For fuck's sake. I'll confess, I feel slightly less safe now that I know that in the fight against crime, on the front line, some of the officers, the boys, girls and they, thems in blue, include these overly sensitive little bastards. And there's two examples left which really sums it up. The first was a male officer who requested time off work because his wrist was hurting from writing in his notebook. An officer of the law defeated by using a fucking pen. And finally, a female officer who took sick leave, explaining that she was used to reading the time on digital clocks, but the clock in the police station was analogue, and claimed it gave her PTSD. I know that post-traumatic stress disorder affects victims of violent crimes, soldiers coming back from the front line, people who've been in road accidents, and of course, emergency service workers. I wasn't aware you could get it looking at a sodding clock. How does she cope when the 6 o'clock news comes on? And if this is the state of modern policing, then God help us the next time some Islamic fundamentalist nutjob decides to carry out an atrocity. Because it won't matter if he's got a gun or a knife. By the time he's finished screaming Allah Akbar, the police will be on the floor crying because the nasty man shouted at them. As ever, thanks for watching. To look at generations born after our own and see, well, with the youngster today, most of them just need a fucking slap. Of which I'm a member because I'm 44. Fuck, that's not good, is it? I'm a member of Generation X, Generation Strange. Sun don't even shine through our window pane. A few years ago, I went to see Limp Bizkit, and they were singing their song, My Generation, and it struck me that all of us there singing along were late 30s, early 40s, probably have mortgages, foreign holidays, and our own cars. We haven't got much to moan about. Millennials... way to look at it is that... Oh, hang on. There's the trees. Continuity. Off work for sick leave because writing in his notebook was hurting his wrist. That's not why your fucking wrist hurts, pal. And it's for that. What the fuck is going on over there? My day, we had respect for the police. If you were doing something you weren't meant to be, the most terrifying 3 words you could ever hear were, "Excuse me, sir." Finally, we had fuck it. The solution is we need to start hitting kids again. I'm 44, I'm a member of Generation X. My first TV was black and white, that's how fucking old I am. I guess when you think about it logically, nice to see the crows are joining in. I think to sum it up, I'll put it on a fucking lead. Twice in one walk.